Hello and welcome to Spring 3.0 Chapter 3. We are going to cover the Spring MVC web layer. In this, we first need to understand topics that we are going to discuss. It won't mean much to you to start with, but let's see it anyway. The first topic will be the architecture of Spring, and then we'll see what dispatcher servlet means, and then we'll see the request and response lifecycle, and we'll dig into a little bit of details of Spring MVC, and then we will see the three important parts of Spring MVC, that is the handler mapping, the controllers, and the view resolvers, and then we will see tags, validation, message bundle, and finally we will integrate the Spring with struts, and we will do a mini project and we'll try to understand this whole thing in totality. So before we jump onto the technicalities and we try to understand Spring MVC, we have already seen chapter 0, chapter 1 and chapter 2. Chapter 0 being the background of the whole web application, and we also saw what is the core container and what is the Spring container, or sometimes we call it IOC container as well. So we saw the different ways of defining beans and what is Spring Bean Factory is and what application context is. To start with, I won't dig into the technicalities, so I'll just go to the slide and I'll talk about a bank branch use case. So when you go to a bank's branch, what do? So you reach to the bank's building, where the bank branch is located. First you reach there through the traffics and all, and then you enter the branch gate, and there can be security guard, metal detector, some cameras, or some you might also need to sign a register. And then once you enter the gate, you reach may I help you counter, and there is a staff. What that staff does is it redirects you to a specific counter or section or desk and provides you a waiting list or something of that sort, a chat perhaps. And then what you do is you go to the next counter, and then counter staff B takes your form. Say for example, if you are withdrawing a large cash, or you want the security device replacement which you use for internet banking, or say for example a statement request of last 6 months of transactions on your credit card, you fill a form and then submit it, and you complete the process, and then the staff takes that form and he processes that form and finally forwards you to the next section or counter with an advice slip for token handover or cash. This counter staff C prints your acknowledgement or maybe your statements, or hands over the cash or the security device depending on the request that you did. Right, so and your task is complete. You go out the branch gate by signing the register without time, and then finally out of the building. So that's the basic branch use case. You enter the building, you enter the gate, you reach the may I help you counter, that redirects you to the service counter. On the service counter you fill the form and you submit it there, and that service counter redirects you to the action counter. On that action counter you get the acknowledgement and the statements or cash or security device or whatever depending on the request, and finally once your task is complete, you got to go out of the branch by signing the register. So that's the whole use case. Now this is exactly what a Spring MVC is. Let me explain you how. This is how the architecture looks like. This is theoretically the same thing that we are doing in branch use case. In the branch use case, this Tomcat is your building. So you come in, you as a customer come in, you get inside the building, and then you reach the dispatcher servlet. Dispatcher is a front controller service, a single entry point to the whole application. Like in your office you have a turnstile, or you have a single security gate where you show your ID card or RFID and you swipe it and then you enter it. So that's the front controller servlet. That is the dispatcher servlet. That's like bank's gate, where you have the security guard or the sign-in register or the perhaps metal detector or camera. And then you go to a may I help you counter. This may I help you counter is handler mapping selection. This decides what kind of service you need, and then you are redirected to staff B, the counter B, where your action is actually serviced. And once you are serviced, you are redirected for the response. right? So your response, you are redirected back from 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 11, 12 is nothing but your response processing. There you get your statements or acknowledgement or handover cache or token kind of process. That's the response processing. So this is request processing, and this is the view processing ultimately. So that's your staff B, and then finally you go back to the gate and you get out of the building, right? Sound simple? That's what it is. That's what is Spring MVC. What is dispatcher servlet? This is the bank's gate. What is a controller? What is a handler mapping? Handler mapping is, may I help you counter. What is a controller or handler interceptor? Handler interceptor execution chain along with controller is nothing but the request processing, which takes your forms and processes the business service accordingly. And finally, view resolver is nothing what you get as a response on your browser. That is nothing but what you have requested for. So that is staff C.